So to celebrate the most anticipated movie of the year, and no, I'm not talking about The Batman. No, I'm not talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. No, I'm not talking about a third example. I'm talking about Fantastic Beasts 3, The Secrets of Dumbledore. So I just rewatched Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and I was once again blown away by how great a start to a new franchise this is. I love Harry Potter, like pretty much everyone that's around my age. I grew up reading the books of Harry Potter. I've loved the movies since I was a very little child. I've loved them forever. I've loved every single one of them. There's something just so amazing and magical about them. And so, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, it's got a really hard kind of act to follow. It's like, how are they going to do this? There's no Harry Potter. There's no Ronald Weasley. There's no Hermione Granger. There's no list every single character in that franchise, because they're all amazing. So it's got to do so much heavy lifting. It's set in New York. We're not even at Hogwarts, the greatest school of witchcraft and wizardry ever. So, you know, there's a lot to kind of live up to. I think the biggest strength for this movie is that it doesn't try and kind of rehash any of those kind of things. Like, it's not set in a school. There's no young kids learning about witchcraft and wizardry. It's set with a bunch of adults, and they're all adult magicians. They're all waving about a wand, and they're all super skilled with it. Like, they know exactly what they're doing. They're really kind of competent for the most part, and it's just about like adults living their lives, which is essentially the main aspect of Harry Potter, like the wizarding world of it all, that we never really saw. Like, we don't see what Harry Potter's like outside of school. We get glimpses of like people, but it's mostly teachers that are adults in the films, or parents being like, Ronald Weasley, how dare you steal your father's car? I'm a little red note. Blah! And so finally, we get a kind of glimpse into the real world life. And as well, it's avoid all the Harry Potterness of it all. It's in the wizarding world, but it's set in New York, and it's set in like the 1920s or somewhere around there, 1920s, 1930s. Everyone's wearing a fedora hat. Everyone's like, I look like a gangster, but I've got a wand. Isn't this a fun combination of things? It is. I love it so much. It's so much fun. The setting is awesome. New York is such a cool, fun place to set it. And then the whole film's just plot. It's just like, what if there was a man and he loved beasts? He loved the magical creatures more than people. And, you know, he's like, ooh, I don't understand people, and people don't understand me. Ooh, I just love hanging out with magical beasts. And then what if he arrived in a town, and then his suitcase, literally just filled with magical beasts, just exploded everywhere, and he's just running about trying to catch them all, like it's a Pokemon episode, where he's just like, I gotta catch all the Pokemon and get them back in my Pokedex. But instead of that, it's a suitcase. It's amazing. I love it so much. All the Fantastic Beasts, all their designs are amazing. I particularly love the big blue serpent one that's like, if it's a big room, he gets real big. And if it's a small little teapot, he gets real small and cute and tiny. I love that. That's such a fun, cool looking idea. Just such a brilliant kind of visual, it's just crazy and bizarre and weird and magical. And I love it all. Pretty much all the creatures in this, like literally all of them, I love so much. I also really like the dopey head one, where he's like a sloth and he's babysitting the big blue one. Love his design as well. I mean, I love all of them. I love the one that's like, I've got all the gold in my belly, and you just shake him out and it's gold, and I don't know. Really, really fun. Probably the highlight for me is just seeing all of the magical beasts in the zoo. Like, we've got this suitcase and people, you know, the animals keep popping out, and I was like, what's in this suitcase? But then when we go down into the suitcase, I think from there, the magic and the kind of the wonder of Harry Potter and that amazing feeling you get in this beautiful magical world is kind of reignited in this film when they go into the suitcase. And it's just this giant zoo sanctuary, just a place for him to keep all his magical creatures, and he's explaining how some of them are endangered and almost extinct and all this stuff, and it kind of just shows how like amazing Eddie Redmayne is as a character, or Newt Scamander is as a character, and how much he's doing for all these animals. And it's just such a beautiful kind of visual scene, as well as a really good character moment for him. It's awesome. It's probably the highlight for me for this film. But pretty much all the times where he's like, I've got to catch a magical beast, I've got to get him in my case, and he's like, I'm a rhino, and he's doing like a little dance. He's like, love it all. So much fun. Eddie Redmayne is probably the highlight of this film in terms of acting. The cast is amazingly cast. Like, everyone does a really, really great job, particularly him and Colin Farrell. Both really, really well cast. Love them. They're both kind of two separate worlds in this movie, because this movie is like, it's a magical beast, gotta put them in a case. It's like Pokemon. And then the rest of the film is like this weird, dark, intense story about like this repressed child who turns out to be the Flash. Ezra Miller's the Flash, and he's actually really good in this as well. kind of surprised by how much I enjoyed him on a kind of a rewatch. He's so downtrodden. He's so repressed. He's so kind of like broken, and the way he can't like look at anyone properly, the way he's just staring down all the time. His haircut is atrocious, but I guess it works for like the story. But his whole thing, and the whole time you're like, oh, it's the little girl, because no obscurist has been past 10 years old, is a really good like kind of trick on it all. And just the way they frame her in the whole film, you're like, oh, she's a spooky little girl, she's the witch, and she's living under the house of the worst woman who ever lived, the foster mum, witch hating, just maniac of a like foster mother character. Is just despicable. She is horrendous in this movie. Just every scene with her is just like bone chilling and really, really upsetting. And there gets to a point in the film where I'm like, I don't know if this is really gelling with the whole like, woohoo, we've got to get a big rhino, but he's magical, and we got to put him in a little suitcase, and we're all flying about, and there's the muggle guy, and he's all like, ha ha ha, magic's the best, and then it cuts to her, and she's like, give me your belt, Ezra Miller, I'm gonna slap you in bloody arms and face and just, torture you and stuff, and just be like an abusive foster mom who just like hates her kids, and there's just like this intense kind of oppression and just like hiding who he is inside, and just this whole subplot that I think on its own really, really works, and kind of together almost works, but there are points where it just feels way too dark and just feels like it's kind of, it should just be in a different movie. There's definitely some sequences where I feel like it totally works, and Eddie Redmayne's character kind of getting involved in it all, and he's like, I've got to care for any magical beast that's misunderstood, and the Obscurist is almost kind of like a beast that's misunderstood. It's a child they don't mean to lash out and be as angry and violent as they, are appearing to be, because they're being repressed and misunderstood and treated poorly. And that's kind of what's happening to a lot of these animals. Like everyone's like, oh no, it's a big beast that's hurting everyone, but it's, just kind of doing what it does, flying about, being a beast, and it's misunderstood. And so Eddie Redmayne's kind of connection to them both, and kind of understanding the Obscurist and being like, Credence, I understand you, I've seen this before. All of that works really, really nicely. Jacob is a really, really fun character, great actor, great performing. So much of the film he's just like, whoa, magic, whoa. But, even though at times it almost feels a little bit one note, where he's just like, oh no, I'm a fish out of water, and magic's crazy. He does a really, really good job, and it kind of feels fresh and original and kind of different, because throughout all of the Harry Potter, films, there's no kind of character that's a main, like, stay that's a muggle, that's like, whoa, what's going on? Magic's crazy! Like, there's a little bit of that in the first movie where Harry's like, oh wow. But he's a little 11-year-old boy, and there's a lot of other craziness, and, to do with, like, being the chosen one and all this kind of stuff. So, I don't know, this feels kind of fresh and different, and especially his reactions. He's so big, he's so extreme, he's so over the top with his reactions. He's a lot of fun. Him and Goldie are a really nice, fun little subplot. They're really cute together. I really like their little almost romance kind of plot that's going on, and I was surprised by how affecting it is right at the end when he's got all his pastries together, and he's like, how do you come up with these crazy magical beasts that look like magical beasts, but they're pastries? And he's like, I don't know, they're just in my head. And then he sees Goldie at the end, and just her look, his look, it's just like this swelling of emotion. It's kind of like, oh wow, that's like so satisfying, even though it kind of, I don't know, it feels like you've almost like kind of retconned something that happened 5 minutes ago, where it's like, I've got to accept that I was never going to remember this. And he walks out into the rain of memories, the memory destroying rain or whatever that happens at the end. Didn't love that. Feels like the kind of like, if you're going to build up with all these subplots and be like, oh no, all the muggles, no, magic and stuff. And then you go big rainfall with Thunderbird and some little, potion we mentioned for 5 seconds. It solved all the issues. It's like, okay, it's a bit easy. I mean, you set it up, so it's not like a Deus Ex Machina kind of situation, I guess. Like, it is set up. You do pretty much explain that's what can happen. But it feels a bit easy. It's kind of like, what was the whole point of, like, that subplot with that famous guy? I forgot his name. You know him. I'll put the picture up here, or I won't. Depends on, how tired I am later. And he's all like, my son's running for president or some kind of political thingy. And then his brother is like, witches! It's witches! And then his brother gets flung about everywhere and he dies. And he's like, I told you it's witches! And then at the end, he's like, look, all the witches. And his dad's like, take the photos. Boom, 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 all the photos. And then it's resolved because Big Bird is like, what a move. Heavy rain. Just feels a little easy. Can't really think of a way you get out of it without kind of escalating the story for the next movie. But I've seen the next film, so maybe you should have kept this plot to escalate it, so we had something to kind of go off. Because it kind of feels like in that second one, I'll get to it in my other review for The Crimes of Grindelwald. What are the crimes? The movie. The movie's the crime. So yeah, that subplot I really, really enjoy throughout the movie, but it feels like it gets wrapped up in a weird way where I'm kind of like, okay, kind of feels a little pointless, but I don't know, whatever. I guess, it's like the teasing of, oh no, this is what could happen if there wasn't a big magical bird that could save everything and just fix everything in 5 seconds. So I don't know, yeah, that kind of like leaves me on a bit of like a, But then the rest of the movie, you know, as I said with Jacob, all his stuff ends and I'm like, oh, that's really heartwarming and nice. I'm surprised by how much I like these characters now. And then Newt Scamander was like talking with other lady character who I've forgotten the name of. She's okay. But then I say that, and I'm like, but their little interaction at the end, where he, like, comes back and they're doing a little cute, like, ooh, and then he runs back and he's like, maybe I could give you my book in person. And she's, like, really happy about it, but they're both so shy and insecure about it, and he runs off. That's really cute, that's really nice, I really like that ending. And I'm kind of like, oh, maybe I do like these characters more than I kind of think I do. And I'm surprised by how well and effective the film is at kind of building up all these characters, especially with Colin Farrell, evil man who's like, I'm going to murder you, execution for everybody, rah, 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 rah. And, you know, he's got this secret subplot to the film where he's like talking to Credence, he's like, Credence, you've got to give me the Obscurel, I've got to use its powers for evil purposes. And then the reveal at the end that he is in fact Grindelwald in hiding is super awesome. But then, of course, completely undermined and completely ruined because the amazing casting of Colin Farrell is just completely magicked away. And it's like, oh, twist reveal, it's Johnny Depp, Grindelwald! And instead of sexy, cool Colin Farrell, where you're like, I can totally understand why Jude Law wanted to have sex with this crazy Nazi man. But then it goes to albino, different coloured-eyed Johnny Depp, who's whispering muttings of like, will we die this time tonight, or whatever, but you can't even understand, so you've got to go back and put subtitles on and be like, what do you say? And even now, I'm misquoting him probably, because he just talks in a weird accent, and he's just doing too much. There's just too much going on. It's not even that it's Johnny Depp, it's just there's so much going on with the character design. It's like, what are they doing? He's not the sexy, charming Colin Farrell, where you can understand why, like, he would, you know, like at the end, he's like, we shouldn't be bowing to the Muggles. We should be not oppressed by the Muggles. And then he starts fighting them all. And I'm like, oh man, this guy has like a charismatic way of speaking. The way that Johnny Depp just does it. But I'll save my big complaints about Johnny Depp when I review, you know, in like 2 hours, The Crimes of Grindelwald. What are the crimes? The movie's the crime. I really like the theme of the whole Obscurus, and you know, like, if you oppress someone, they'll lash out and be, you know, they can be angry and violent, and like, you needing to nurture them, and how Newt Scamander's character kind of comes in and tries to help, and then bloody Grindelwald's like, no, I'm on your side, I want you to embrace your power, and all this stuff, and it's really interesting. There's some like really good like real world themes that you can kind of think about as they're doing it, but before it kind of has time to kind of sink its teeth into it and really delve into the ideas and kind of add up to a big climax, it kind of goes, that's a big Hollywood movie and it's a big CGI swirling mess and everyone's like shooting lasers at it and it's all going a bit crazy and it gets a little bit unwieldy. The CGI kind of gets a bit kind of too all over the screen. It's hard to kind of place where everything is and it's just kind of like a big mist of CGI smoke and Ezra Miller kind of disappears for 5 minutes and he just explodes all over the city. And it just feels a bit like, whoa, I don't know if we needed to do this much, especially because at the end all the wizards are just like, oh, reverse the damage that is done, reverse, I say. And it's like, okay, don't know if we needed to go through this, you know, big song and dance about it all. Probably would have been better if Ezra Miller had just been there, sitting there, Obscurel had all finished and stuff, and then it was just Grindelwald and Newt Scamander and their ideologies and stuff kind of going at, like, you know, Ezra Miller, and he was all like, I can't decide which side to side on, or something. I don't know. I just think there was kind of a different, more kind of less big explosion-y way that kind of would kind of worked more on the heart level. Because, as I said, I'm quite surprised by how well the heart stuff worked with the other characters towards the end. For a prequel movie set in the Harry Potter-verse, it's really surprising how kind of restrained they are. There's like one mention of Hogwarts, and he's just like, they're just talking about schools, and he's like, actually, Hogwarts is the greatest school of witchcraft and wizardry of all time. Which is, of course, what he'd say, because he went there. And there's little glimpses at kind of his, you know, long-lost love letter, Lestrange. So, like, it was like, oh, Lestrange, that's a thing we know from another thing, from the Harry Potter. But it's in such a way where someone's just like, oh, isn't that family a bit like her? And he's like, hey, I don't want to talk about her. We've all changed. And it's actually a really great emotional bit, like those two moments that we mentioned Lestrange. And it's not because it's like, hey, remember the thing from the Harry Potter thing? Lestrange is a name. You remember her? She was all evil. But this, it's just kind of this really emotional moment where you're like, hey, this main character who just loves magical beasts and where to find them, he has had kind of like no human connection in the film. And he feels really weird. And, you know, he's trying to get to know this other girl. But he just feels a bit like off and weird. And then you hear about this love and this old distant love from high school. And you kind of get this really beautiful kind of sense that's like, oh, he's kind of damaged from that. And he hasn't been able to kind of like, that might have been the only human being he's kind of, gotten used to and been able to be around, and whatever happened, and now he's just gone head on into animals. Like, he's probably always loved animals, and this one person has been that one person he could connect with, but now he's like, no, I'm all animals all day, baby. And so having him be friends with Jacob, and at the end he's like, Jacob's like, why did you bloody let me tag along? And he's like, because you're my friend. And it's like a really nice moment. And then at the end with Tila, whatever her name is, Mrs. I'm a cop, but maybe I'm not an or a cop anymore. She and him have a really nice kind of little, will they, won't they, probably not, but ooh, will they? And I really like that, and it kind of, I don't know, it's a really nice kind of little character arc for him. And yeah, just really, really nice. And one other, Harry Potter, remember the Harry Potter movies? Is when they mentioned, like, Albus Dumbledore. Why does Albus Dumbledore love you, Newt Scamander? But of course, like, that was his teacher, and that would make sense that was the teacher that liked him. And also, not knowing it's Grindelwald at the first time, but want to rewatch when you know it's Grindelwald, it makes sense that he'd be like, why does Albus Dumbledore, my old secret love who abandoned me when I went full Nazi? Or maybe he was full Nazi for a bit. Maybe that's the secret of Dumbledore, that he's secretly a Nazi for a bit. Even though we all know, because we all read the 7th book, he was a Nazi for a bit. Piece of shit Dumbledore, I will never forget. Overall, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is a lot of fun. Such a great starting off point. It's such a tragedy what happened to the second movie. Maybe Secrets of Dumbledore will bring it all back around. It's going to be a fantastic franchise of, I think, 5 films they're going to do. But who knows? It was such a blast revisiting this movie. Eddie Redmayne, like, if anything, if this whole franchise is worth for nothing, it all crumbles into nothing. The films get worse and worse and worse. But the things that will make these films worth it in the end is that Eddie Redmayne is a great addition to the Harry Potter universe. In ways, he kind of reminds me of how good Martin Freeman was as Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit. So whatever you think about those Hobbit movies, you can't deny Martin Freeman, exceptional, and such a great kind of addition to the Lord of the Rings universe. And I kind of think Eddie Redmayne has that same kind of role here. Maybe not as great in terms of Martin Freeman just killed it as Bilbo Baggins, but Eddie Redmayne is so fun in the Harry Potter world with his wand and he's doing the magical beast dance. He's all like, I'm a big rhino boy. It's just a lot of fun. He really, really excels. And yeah, can't wait to see more Newt Scamander adventures. And maybe less of the whole, it's going to be a wizarding war of doom and destruction and everything's literally darkly and it's all sad and scary and it's like witch trials. Oh, maybe these tomes don't mix. Maybe we should have made a Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them movie and just had a nice 19 minutes movie and then maybe made a trilogy of it's the wizarding war and Grindelwald's evil and maybe not cast Johnny Depp. 10 points to Fantastic Beasts for being way better than it has any right to be and minus 100 points for getting rid of Colin Farrell and replacing him with Johnny Depp. So my overall rating of this film would be a big old Expelliarm, yes. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I'd love to know what everyone thinks of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.